Imagine the stillness of a September night in 1777, the American Revolution blazing on, when, out of nowhere, the silence explodes into a hellish ambush, a massacre under the moonlight that would etch itself into the history books as one of the most chilling events of the entire war. This is the story of the Paoli Massacre, a night when fear, betrayal, and ruthless violence unfolded in the dead of night, sending shockwaves through the American ranks and cementing a legacy of resilience. The year was 1777, and the Revolutionary War was not going as smoothly as the Patriots had hoped. The British had taken New York and were pressing down towards Philadelphia. The Continental Army, led by General George Washington, was doing its best to slow their advance, fighting skirmishes and major battles along the way. Just days before the Paoli Massacre, Washington's forces had suffered a tough defeat at the Battle of Brandywine, forcing them to retreat and regroup. In the aftermath of Brandywine, a part of Washington's forces, led by General Mad Anthony Wayne, was tasked with shadowing the British to keep tabs on their movements. Wayne was a fiery leader with a reputation for aggressive tactics and unyielding spirit. Despite his orders to keep a low profile and observe the enemy, he chose a camp location at Paoli, Pennsylvania, and didn't take extensive precautions, believing his position was hidden from the British. But he was wrong. As Wayne's men settled down for the night, an eerie calm settled over the camp. Unbeknownst to them, their location wasn't exactly a secret. A local Tory, a loyalist to the British Crown, had revealed their position to British forces, providing the enemy with a golden opportunity to strike the Americans when they least expected it. British General Charles Grey, known as No Flint Grey for his brutal tactics, didn't hesitate to seize this chance. He ordered his men to remove the flints from their muskets to ensure total silence. They would rely solely on bayonets and the cover of night. This wasn't going to be a fair fight. It was planned as a brutal, unrelenting assault, a lesson in terror. In the pitch black of September 20th, the British troops crept toward the unsuspecting Americans at Paoli. Wayne's men were completely unaware of the horror about to rain down on them. It wasn't until the British were nearly on top of the camp that the alarm was sounded. But it was already too late. Like a wave crashing over rocks, the British soldiers stormed into the camp, bayonets flashing in the moonlight, cutting through tents, flesh, and anything in their path. Wayne's men scrambled to defend themselves, but the confusion, darkness, and sheer surprise made resistance nearly impossible. The Americans who tried to flee found themselves caught in a nightmare, hunted down and struck down with no mercy. The brutality of the attack sent shockwaves across the camp. Stories from survivors later recounted the chaos, the screams, the blood-soaked earth, and the relentless British bayonets that cut down anyone in their way. This wasn't a battle, it was a massacre, a ruthless act of psychological warfare meant to terrify and dishearten the Continental Army. By the time the British withdrew, leaving a field littered with the dead and dying, the scene was one of utter devastation. Around 53 American soldiers were killed, many more wounded, and the attack left a deep scar on the morale of Wayne's men. But here's the twist. Instead of breaking the Americans' resolve, the Paoli Massacre ignited a new fire within the Continental Army. The shocking brutality of that night sparked outrage and a renewed determination to fight. The massacre became a rallying cry. American forces used the brutal memory of Paoli as motivation in future battles, spreading the story of the ambush as evidence of British cruelty. Soldiers spoke of Remember Paoli as they prepared to face the enemy, using the massacre as fuel to push forward in the face of overwhelming odds. The Paoli Massacre would go down in history as a stark reminder of the cost of war and the ruthlessness of the British forces, but it also became a symbol of resilience. Anthony Wayne, though criticized for his failure to adequately defend his camp, would go on to redeem himself as a fierce leader in later battles. Years later, Paoli would be memorialized, the site of the massacre marked as a place of remembrance. For the young American nation, the Paoli Massacre was a harrowing lesson in the harsh realities of war. It became a chapter of the revolution's dark and bloody path to freedom, a story of betrayal, brutality, and ultimately unbreakable resolve.